It began as whispers in the forests of Nepal, stories of a shadow moving silently between trees, a predator unlike any other. Villagers spoke of a ghost, a force that hunted not animals, but humans. By the time authorities took notice, more than 200 people had already fallen victim. But this was no spirit. It was a Bengal tigress, young, powerful, and deadly. And this was just the beginning. The year was the late 1890s. The jungles of Nepal, thick with undergrowth and echoing with the sounds of life, were about to become silent. Entire villages were abandoned, markets closed, schoolyards empty. No one dared step outside alone. The tiger attacked at any time, morning, noon, or dusk. Soldiers were deployed to kill her, but even with their guns and traps, they failed. The tigress was cunning, unpredictable, and terrifying. Eventually, the military drove her across the border into India, into the Kumaon region of what is now Uttarakhand. But what should have brought relief only spread the horror wider. In the hills of Champawat, the nightmare resumed. The tigress began hunting again. This time, her victims were women and children gathering wood, tending to crops, or simply walking to school. Locals stopped counting after the numbers surpassed 300. By the time anyone kept official record, the death toll had reached a staggering 436. People spoke in hushed voices. The devil in stripes, they called her. But why did this tigress, a creature meant to rule the wild, suddenly turn to hunting humans? The truth would only be revealed later. When the tiger's body was finally examined, it was discovered that she had a broken upper canine tooth on the right side of her mouth, with the lower canine worn down as well. She had likely suffered this injury while fighting larger prey, or possibly after being wounded by a gunshot during the early attempts at killer. In unbearable pain, unable to take down agile animals like deer or wild boar, she turned to something slower and easier: humans. The pain of her injury made her desperate, and that desperation turned into calculated, methodical killing. The situation reached its breaking point on one chilling morning in 1907. A 16-year-old girl, simply going about her daily routine in the village of Fatahor, was ambushed by the tigress. Witnesses could do nothing but watch in horror as she was dragged into the forest. Her screams echoed, then fell silent. This attack would finally bring the hunter face to face with the hunted. Jim Corbett was not just a hunter. He was a tracker, a man of the jungle, someone who understood the language of the forest better than most. Born and raised in the Kumaon region, Corbett had spent years walking these forests, learning every whisper of leaf and snap of twig. He knew the tigress wasn't evil. She was wounded, desperate, but she was dangerous. Corbett agreed to take on the hunt, knowing that with every step into the jungle, he could become her next victim. With the help of terrified but determined villagers, Corbett organized a massive beat, the villagers forming a human line to drive the tigress toward a specific area where she could be ambushed. Days passed, tracks were found, droppings, even claw marks on tree trunks, but the tigress remained elusive. She was intelligent, a veteran of countless hunts, having evaded bullets and traps in Nepal. This was not going to be easy. Then, finally, after a tense, silent wait, near a ravine deep in the forest, she appeared. For a moment, time froze. Corbett raised his rifle. The breath of the entire village seemed to hold in that second. The tigress looked straight at him, not with rage, but with something colder: calculation. In that moment, man and beast faced each other not as enemies, but as survivors in a brutal, unforgiving world. And then the shot rang out. The great killer of hundreds collapsed. When her body was examined, the extent of her injuries told a tragic story, not just of death and terror, but of pain, survival, and the brutal reality of life in the wild. Jim Corbett didn't celebrate her death. Instead, he mourned her suffering. This wasn't just the end of a terror. It was the end of a life shaped by human interference, injury, and desperation. The same man who shot the Champawat Tiger would later dedicate his life to saving tigers, founding sanctuaries, and protecting the very species he had once hunted. The Champawat Tiger story isn't just about a killer beast, it's about the fragile line between survival and savagery. It's about a wounded predator pushed to the edge, and it's about the courage of one man who walked into the heart of fear to end a nightmare, not for glory, but for peace. Even today, deep in the forest of Kumaon, when the wind rustles the leaves and shadows flicker across ancient trails, locals still whisper her name, the tigress who once ruled with terror, and the man who faced her. The story of the Champawat Tiger is a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous killers are not the ones we imagine, but the ones shaped by the broken bond between human and nature.